Hello, welcome to today's edition of the Academy. We're continuing our look at The Art of War by Sun Tzu. We're going to start in Chapter 4. Now, Chapter 4 is titled Tactical Dispositions, and it has to do a lot with, actually engaging in combat. And the first part talks more about defeat and winning and how to do that. But it's very, I'll call it esoteric almost. So I'm going to read sentences 2, 3, 5, and 6. Yeah, I'll go ahead and throw 3 in there as well, because I think it kind of sets the tone a little bit. So, to secure ourselves against defeat lies in our own hands, but the opportunity of defeating the enemy is provided by the enemy himself. Thus, a good fighter is able to secure himself against defeat, but cannot make certain of defeating the enemy. So hence the saying, one may know how to conquer without being able to do it. Security against defeat implies defensive tactics. Ability to defeat the enemy means taking the offensive. Standing on the defensive indicates insufficient strength, but attacking a superabundance of strength. Okay, those 5 sentences are really talking about and kind of building on that first sentence, number 2. 2 parts. Our ability to secure ourselves against defeat is entirely up to us. Okay. Our ability to defeat the enemy is mostly up to the enemy. Okay. I know it sounds strange, but it really is. Now, ignore dice rolling for a second. Okay. What really makes it possible for you to win? So let's back it up. To not lose. That's the first thing. In order to win, you can't lose. If you lose, you don't win, right? So, how do you not win? No, sorry. How do you easy not to win? How do you not lose? You have to protect yourself from defeat. So, your decisions, by and large, are going to determine whether or not you can be defeated. Do you expose your units to unnecessary risk? Do you put them in the line of fire against weapon systems that can easily take them out? Do you give up or not defend key objectives across the battlefield? Do you piecemeal your army into the combat instead of coordinating fire? There's a lot of concepts in military science that if you don't apply them, you're setting yourself up for defeat. If you do apply them, you're preventing yourself from being defeated. Okay, so that's kind of how that plays in. Sun Tzu understood that. Now the second one is the opportunity of defeating the opponent is provided by the opponent himself. Same reasons. He is going to either prevent himself from being defeated or make it possible for himself to be defeated. If you're in a position to defeat him and not be defeated, well, let me say, that's going to get confusing if I continue that thought. If you are in a position where you're protecting yourself from getting defeated easily, you're keeping yourself strong as far as the goals of the particular scenario you're in, and your opponent makes the mistakes that make it harder for him to secure those goals, then you're in a better position to take the offensive and basically make it harder for him to achieve those goals that he's already having difficulty achieving. That's what secures the victory on the tabletop. Now, all this boils down to an axiom I've used ever since I began teaching fencing. And it goes back to a statement I used to make to my students. The best fencer that has ever lived probably died within the first few engagements, first few duels. Why would I say that? Because in sentence 13, Sun Tzu says something very similar. And it's actually the point that I was making to my students. He wins his battles by making no mistakes. Making no mistakes is what establishes the certainty of victory, for it means conquering the enemy that is already defeated. Basically, the first one to make a mistake dies. That's what I used to tell my students. You could be a really good fencer, really good swordsman, and make a mistake if that opponent, inexperienced as it may be, is aware enough to maximize their own ability. At that moment when you make the mistake, you're done. I've had a few times I got cocky on the strip and figured, this is a newbie, I can put him in his place pretty easily. Got sloppy, made a mistake, and he took advantage of it. But if I played normally, if I fought like he was a real opponent, he couldn't do much to touch me. Okay. Air combat, same thing. Fighter pilots used to say the same thing. Don't make mistakes. The first one to make a mistake dies. Okay. And there it was literally dies. Okay. On the battlefield, mistakes often kill people. Here on the tabletop, mistakes are what allow you to lose the game. Okay. I've talked in previous videos of things that I've done, mistakes I've made that cost me a game or prevented me from winning. I may have drawn the game instead of winning it, but in many situations I've lost simply because I made a stupid mistake. If you avoid those mistakes, minimize the number of mistakes you make, hopefully your opponent makes more mistakes than you're more likely to win. So, taking this back to sentence number 2, you can protect your ability to give yourself security against the defeat by minimizing the number of mistakes you make. Your opponent can make it much more easy for you to win if he makes more mistakes. So, do things that cause him to make mistakes, because that takes practice. You need to know your opponent, know how he thinks, know how the army works, and you can maximize things and draw him into little mistakes. So that's the concept here on these basically 6 sentences, 2 through 6 and number 13. Okay? In the next video we'll finish out chapter 4, which is all about tactical deployment. And I'm liking Sun Tzu. I still suggest, if you haven't already, please do get yourself a copy. And if you can, get a couple different commentators as well. So, thanks for sticking with me. Share, like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next edition of the Academy. Bye-bye.